Hi, I'm Chuck Olenek. I'm a reenactor. And that's what I did in the classroom for 36 years while teaching history. Well, now I'm continuing what I very pretentiously call a Mission Odyssey, visiting each of the California missions, estancias, and presidios, and documenting the experience while I'm in garb, trying to preserve the landmarks before they disappear, and having a bit of fun. And the reason I'm dressed this way today is I didn't finish a video that I was doing on Mission San Juan Capistrano. Actually, I finished the video, but I had far more material than I had space, and I realized there needs to be a second video that's concentrating largely on the pirate Bouchard, who raided the California coast in 1818. So I hope you stick with me on my journey. Today, and in two other videos, we get to talk about pirates. Specifically, the notorious pirate of Alta California, Hippolyte de Bouchard, who rampaged up and down the coast. And his story starts in France. He was born there. He moves to South America, and when the various colonies in South America were gaining their independence from Spain, or at least fighting for it, he joined up with the United Provinces of La Plata. Okay, we're going to call that Argentina later. And what he ends up doing is he receives letters to basically go play, go annoy the Spanish, and he received a ship which was renamed La Argentina, and it was a frigate with 34 guns. And originally his plan was supposed to be go along the coast of South America and annoy the Spanish. Well, he decided a better option would be go to the Philippines and raid a treasure ship. Unfortunately for him, by the time he made it to the Philippines, the last treasure ship had sailed like 2 years earlier. So, oops. After that, he decided he would go to the Sandwich Islands, which we now call Hawaii. And there he happened to see the remains of a schooner. And he spoke to King Kamehameha and gave him a very nice hat and coat, because Bouchard tended to dress a lot like a Napoleonic naval officer, which I guess that's what he fancied himself to be rather than being a pirate. And Kamehameha gave him the ship, and then Bouchard recruited a crew and a captain named Corny. Now, Corny told Bouchard about the wealth of Alta California. And now, here is Bouchard, commander of a fleet of two ships, the frigate La Argentina, 34 guns, and a schooner, although the British might have called it a sloop of war, that was renamed the Santa Rosa, that Corny was in charge of, and it had 18 guns. Between the two ships, he had 340 men, and he sailed towards Alta California. The captain in charge of the Presidio in Santa Barbara had received word from, I believe, an American that was in the Sandwich Islands, and who showed up and said, Bouchard's coming this way, and he's got 340 guys, and he's got 52 guns, and this is not good for you. And Captain De La Guerra sent word to the governor in Monterey, and the governor in Monterey sent out letters, because they were expecting Bouchard to show up in October. He sent out letters to the missions saying, oh my God, hide your stuff, Bouchard is coming. And then he sent word to the presidios on how to prepare. Bouchard sails towards Monterey. He burns the largely abandoned presidio. The soldados had the wisdom of bailing out of there because they realized there were nowhere near enough soldiers to stop 340 very determined pirates. And from his place of safety, the governor issued his orders. In the meantime, Bouchard burned the presidio to the ground except for the chapel. He gave very strict orders, do not touch the chapel, because he reminded a lot of his sailors they were Catholics. They also were told not to loot the Mission San Carlos. So Bouchard takes off, and his direction isn't clear at first. So that means the governor is now sending out more letters in every direction that he can, and he ends up sailing south towards Santa Barbara. Before he gets to the Santa Barbara mission area presidio, he raids a rancho that was very, very wealthy. It was a little bit north of Santa Barbara, like just south of Gaviota Pass. And part of the reason this rancho was very rich is it was involved in illicit trade, because people learned to adapt to having only one supply ship coming once a year, and they didn't feel like waiting. So they got involved in smuggling a bit. Well, Bouchard ends up raiding, he's replenishing his supplies, which he really needed, and in the meantime, 3 of his men get captured. Oops. Well, Bouchard and Captain De La Guerra, who was in charge of the Santa Barbara Presidio, are gonna send messages back and forth, and what they work out is what was termed a prisoner exchange. The 3 men that De La Guerra was holding in the jail, he's going to hand those over to Bouchard. Bouchard is going to hand over his one prisoner, who really wasn't a prisoner, by the way. He pretty much joined up with the pirates, but he's now a bargaining chip. He's the unwanted child. And Bouchard is made to swear that he will not attack anything in Alta California. He lied. So Bouchard is looking for some place to stop and to replenish supplies. His second in command, or the captain of the other ship, Corny, is making suggestions saying they need to go to a place where they're not really known, and that's going to be hard to do. And they had basically 3 choices. Well, there's another choice, I'll throw that in a moment. Stop at San Pedro and march 20 miles inland to attack Mission San Gabriel Archangel. Of course, the pirates aren't really thrilled with this idea, because that's marching 20 miles inland through a rather arid area. Or go down to San Diego and attack down there, except that not only is there a full presidio, but there is also a fortress built to protect the harbor itself, and that's like at Ballast Point, where Ballast Point is right now. Okay, that's not a good plan. So it was decided to attack at Mission San Juan Capistrano, which is completely contradictory to the way Bouchard carried on when it came to Monterey and preserving the chapel and protecting Mission San Carlos. Now, Bouchard was delayed a bit, and there is some speculation that he may have gone off to investigate Catalina or one of the Channel Islands, and looking for supplies, and he came up empty there. So now he's settled on, demanding supplies from Mission San Juan Capistrano. But the mission has been cleared out. There's over 1,000 neophytes, the other people living there, the Padres, they've been cleared out. They were told they were going to march to the Asistencia at San Antonio de Paula. Well, that was like 50-something miles away. What made more sense was to go up Trabuco Canyon to an Adobe there, and there was a retired soldier named Yorba who was like 72 years old, and he was put in charge of the defense of the Adobe itself. So it was decided, instead of marching over 1,000 men, women, and children from Mission San Juan Capistrano to the Asistencia at San Antonio de Paula, and also taking any valuables along the way, it was a better plan to march them to that structure that's behind me. That's the remnants of the Trabuco Adobe. And it was around here that the valuables were buried, and the civilian population waited it out while Don Santiago Argüello staged a valiant defense of the mission. Santiago Argüello is in charge of the defense of the mission, and he doesn't have a whole lot of guys with him. He has basically a handful. What was supposed to happen is there were supposed to be soldados coming from Santa Barbara. They were going to pick up some more in the pueblo of Los Angeles. There were supposed to be soldados coming from the Presidio in San Diego. The Juanino Indians were supposed to be armed with bows and arrows. None of those things are happening soon enough. And Argüello has to basically bluff big time. And he might not even realize he was bluffing. He may not have realized that the help that he was looking for wasn't there yet, or wasn't coming as soon as he needed it. And Bouchard very haughtily demanded supplies from the mission. So here's the mission, it's mostly empty, and there's some soldiers. And Argüello sends a message back. All you're going to get here is powder and shot. And this sends Bouchard over the edge. He sends in 6 launches carrying about 20 men each. And as soon as the launches land, Argüello launches an attack, and his men ride out, shoot, run away. And technically, he lived up to the letter of what he said he was going to do. He gave powder and shot. Well, now the Spanish retreat to a hill that's overlooking the mission, and the pirates show up, and there's over 100 of them, and they brought 2 small cannon, and they start moving towards the mission, which is 2 miles away, and they have drummers sounding a beat, and this all looks very military, sounds very military. I think you have to go back to Bouchard, probably thought of himself as a Napoleonic admiral. And By the way, they're pushing these 2 cannons, or pulling them, depending upon your perspective. And they will get to the mission. So, what this group of very, very angry and frustrated pirates did, after hauling 2 cannons 2 miles from the beach to the mission and finding it empty, they positioned one of the cannons in the great stone church pointed towards the hilltop where the Spanish soldados were waving at them. After the pirates positioned one of their cannon towards the hill where the Spanish were, they went looking for things. Well, they found where the wine was made, and one thing led to another. They also found where the wine was bottled and where there was a type of hard liquor being made, and things went pretty much south from there. Some of the pirates got drunk enough they tried to set fire to the mission. Unfortunately for them, the mission was made of largely Adobe, and that stuff doesn't burn so good. So they settled for burning a lot of the Juanino huts. So now that the pirates have gotten drunk, what some of them started to do was break into various rooms, like the Padres' quarters, and steal what they could. Some of the pirates, when they got drunk enough, they decided to come over here and ring the bells. When everything goes south for the pirates, when they realize that there are a lot more soldiers who have shown up from Santa Barbara, from Los Angeles, from San Diego, and then there's the potential for the Indians being armed. Now the odds are looking pretty even. And the pirates decide, okay, you know what, enough of this. We're going back to the ships. And they're trying to get their drunken brethren back to the ships, back to the safety of the launches. And what they're having to do is, some of them are so drunk they have to be lashed to the cannons, and the cannons are pushed along, so that must have been a fun ride. And I'm sure that the pirates that were pushing the cannons were really thrilled. Others were so drunk or in such a hurry, they've gathered up what they could from the mission, and they're trying to hurry back to the beach, trying to get back to the launches. And there was a description of a lot of the loot was simply dropped along their path back to the beach. You know, obviously they're like in a hurry. I'm sure some were dropping them going, I don't need that, you know, and they just moved on. So when they get back on board their ships, well, what's eventually going to happen is somewhere between, well, during the night of December 17th, December 18th, the ships sailed away. And they didn't bother Alta California. Instead, they continued their raiding in Central America. If you're going to have a good pirate story, you need a buried treasure story to go with it. And when Bouchard threatened the mission, the Padres took all the valuables from the mission that they could, and they buried them near this adobe. Well, there was some discrepancy after Bouchard left of just how much of the valuables came back. Maybe soldiers took them, maybe civilians, who knows? Okay, so I'm not done. That means there's another video coming up on Mission San Juan Capistrano as part of this Mission Odyssey. I hope you stick with me on the journey.